weight of the world. The wrench slipped again, biting into the soft metal of the faucet. Michael cursed under his breath, the sharp tang of copper thick in the air. Water sprayed his already damp shirt, plastering it to his chest. "Just a sec, Lilybug," he called out, the words echoing in the small bathroom. "Okay, Dad," came the reply, muffled by the closed door. He could picture her, hunched over her math book at the kitchen table, brow furrowed in concentration. Lily always tried so hard. He tightened his grip, muscles straining. This stupid leak. One more thing to fix, one more expense looming. Finally, with a groan of protest, the fitting gave way. Water slowed to a trickle, then stopped. He wiped his brow with the back of his hand, leaving a smudge of grime on his forehead. Relief, fleeting as it was, washed over him. "All fixed," he announced, opening the door. Lily looked up, her blue eyes, so much like Emily's, searching his face. "Did you hurt yourself, Dad?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. He forced a smile. "Nope. All good. Just a little damp." She didn't look convinced. He knew she saw the lines etched deeper around his eyes, felt the constant hum of stress that vibrated beneath his skin. He hated that she carried that weight too. Later, the scent of sawdust and varnish clung to him as he worked late at the carpentry shop. The rhythmic rasp of the sander was a temporary balm, smoothing the rough edges of the walnut table he was building. But even the familiar comfort of working with wood couldn't quite drown out the gnawing worry in his gut. The electric bill was overdue and Lily needed new shoes. He glanced at the clock. Almost 10. He should head home. He switched off the lights, the sudden silence amplifying the loneliness that always seemed to creep in at the edges of his days. He locked up, the metallic click of the lock echoing in the empty street. The night air was cool against his skin, carrying the scent of rain. Lily was already in bed when he got home, curled up beneath her dinosaur-themed duvet. He sat on the edge of the bed, gently stroking her hair. It was darker than Emily's had been, but just as soft. "Hey, sweetie," he whispered. "Sleep okay?" She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Dad?" "Yeah, it's me. Did you finish the table?" "Almost. Just a few more touches." She yawned, a tiny, heartbreaking sound. "I miss Mom." The words, so simple, so honest, were like a punch to the gut. He swallowed hard, pushing down the familiar wave of grief. "I know, baby. Me too." He tucked the duvet tighter around her shoulders. "She's always with us, Lilybug." "Right here," he said, touching his heart. He watched her drift back to sleep, her face serene in the dim light. He knew he should go to bed himself, but he couldn't bring himself to move. The weight of the world, of responsibility, of loss, pressed down on him, heavy and suffocating. He closed his eyes, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. He had to be strong. For Lily. He was all she had. A voice in the night. The tempest outside mirrored the disquiet Michael usually suppressed. Rain hammered Lily's window panes, the wind keening like a lost soul. No sooner had he settled into his favorite armchair, a dog-eared goodnight moon, resting open in his lap, than the shrill ring of the phone shattered the house's fragile peace. He groped for it on the nearby table, the digital display glowing with an unfamiliar sequence of digits. He nearly ignored it, nearly succumbed to the urge to let it ring. But a lifetime of ingrained courtesy, responding to every call regardless of inclination, compelled him to answer. "Hello?" His voice, thick with sleep, sounded foreign. Silence, save for crackling static and the distant howl of the storm. He was about to disconnect when a tiny, broken voice surfaced. "Dad? Dad, please help me." A jolt slammed through Michael. The voice, belonging to a child of perhaps 8 or 9, resonated with a raw, desperate fear that iced his blood. "Who is this?" he demanded, his tone sharpening. "Where are you?" The boy, undeniably a boy, choked back a sob. "I don't know. Everything's dark. I'm so scared. Dad, they're coming. They're coming? Who is?" Michael's grip tightened on the phone, knuckles aching. He fought to maintain a soothing cadence. "Tell me your name." "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Alex." The whimper came. "My name is Alex." "Dad, hurry." The connection frayed, the boy's cries dissolving into static. Michael strained to listen, his thoughts churning. This had to be some cruel joke, a heartless prank. Yet, the pure, unadulterated panic in the boy's plea felt devastatingly real. "Alex, just listen to me," he urged, his voice barely audible above the gale. "Where are you? Can you see anything? Any buildings? Anything at all? Just trees. And it's freezing. So cold." The boy's voice hitched on a sob. "Dad, I don't want to be here." A sickening wave rolled over Michael. Alex, I'm going to find you. Tell me everything, anything you can. Abruptly, a sharp, metallic clang tore through the line, instantly followed by a stifled scream. Then, nothing. Utter, absolute silence. The call had dropped. He stared at the phone in disbelief, his hand visibly shaking. He frantically redialed, but the call echoed endlessly, unanswered. After 5 futile attempts, the line went dead. He tossed the phone back onto the armchair and rose, his legs suddenly unreliable. He had to check on Lily. He needed to lay eyes on her to reassure himself of her well-being. He slipped into her room, the old floorboards groaning beneath his weight. She slumbered peacefully, her small frame rising and falling with each breath. Her golden hair fanned across the pillow like an ethereal crown. He lingered there, simply observing her, the image of the terrified boy seared into his mind's eye. Gently, he tucked the blanket more snugly around her, brushed a kiss against her forehead, and retreated from the room, quietly closing the door. Back in the living room, the storm raged on unabated. He sought any explanation for the call. A misdial. A mean-spirited jest. The fantasy of a child. But the boy's voice, the stark terror ringing in his cries. It clung to him like a shroud. Alex. His name was Alex. He couldn't dismiss the unnerving sensation that something was terribly, irrevocably wrong. A feeling that burrowed deep, settling in his stomach like a block of ice. He secured all the doors and windows, meticulously checking each lock. He sank back into his armchair, the echoes in the park. The ringing startled him awake again. 3:17 a.m. He fumbled for his phone, the screen searing his eyes. Same number. He almost didn't answer, the digital ghost haunting his nights, but a sliver of guilt pricked him. What if it was a real emergency? He pressed the green button. Dad, please. The voice, choked with what sounded like suppressed sobs, was clearer this time, less garbled. I'm scared. Michael's throat tightened. Who is this? Where are you? He kept his voice low, not wanting to wake Lily. The line went dead. He sat up in bed, the cotton sheets twisted around his legs. This wasn't just a prank. There was a raw desperation in that voice, a vulnerability that resonated with the ache in his own heart. He scribbled the number on the notepad he kept on his nightstand and, after ensuring Lily was still sound asleep, padded downstairs to his laptop. A quick search revealed the number was a landline, registered to a payphone. Location, Elmwood Park. Elmwood Park. The very mention sent a shiver crawling down his spine. It was a place of shadows and whispers, a sprawling green space that had fallen into disrepair years ago. Locals said it was haunted, a place where children had gone missing, never to be seen again. A place Lily was strictly forbidden to go near. He scoffed at the thought of ghosts. Still, the park had a heavy atmosphere, a feeling of perpetual twilight even on the brightest days. He'd always avoided it, preferring the manicured lawns of Oak Haven Park closer to their house. Another call came as he stared at the park's grainy satellite image on his laptop. He ignored it. He had to know. He waited until dawn, the gray light painting the sky in shades of remorse. After dropping Lily at school, he drove towards Elmwood Park, the city slowly waking around him. The park gates were rusted, hanging crookedly on their hinges. The air hung thick and damp, smelling of decaying leaves and something else, something faintly metallic. He walked deeper into the park, the silence broken only by the caw of crows circling overhead. The swings creaked in the non-existent breeze, a mournful symphony of neglect. Then he saw him. A small boy sat on a bench beneath a sprawling oak tree, his head in his hands. He was slight, with dark hair that fell across his forehead. He wore Sarah's arrival. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the park as a woman with wind-tossed hair and a worried expression scanned the playground. Sarah Chin. Her breath hitched when she spotted Alex, not lost or hurt, but sitting beside a man on a bench looking comfortable. Too comfortable. She rushed towards them, her heart hammering against her ribs. Alex, she called out, her voice tight with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Alex turned, a small smile gracing his lips as he saw her. Mom. He jumped off the bench and ran to her, wrapping his small arms around her legs. Sarah knelt, pulling him into a tight embrace. What happened? I was so worried. You know you're not supposed to wander off. He mumbled something into her jeans, but Sarah couldn't make it out. She stood, turning her attention to the man who had been sitting with Alex. He was tall, with tired eyes and a kind face, but there was an undeniable bewilderment etched on his features. I am so sorry, Sarah began, her voice laced with concern. He just ran off and She trailed off, unsure how to explain Alex's peculiar behavior. Thank you for keeping him safe. Michael stood as well, running a hand through his hair. He seemed all right. Just calling me Dad. Sarah's eyes widened slightly. Dad? He does that sometimes. It's just a phase, I think. She forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow even to her own ears. He has a very active imagination. Michael looked at Alex, then back at Sarah, clearly unconvinced. He seemed pretty convinced. Alex tugged on Sarah's hand. Can we go home now, Mom? I'm hungry. Of course, sweetie. Sarah turned back to Michael, her expression apologetic. Again, I'm so sorry for the trouble. I don't know what came over him. She hesitated, then offered her hand. I'm Sarah, by the way. Sarah Chin. Michael shook her hand, his grip firm but gentle. Michael Harding. He watched as she steered Alex away, her shoulders tense. As they walked away, Alex looked back over his shoulder, a wistful expression on his face. He waved, and Michael, without thinking, waved back. Sarah pulled Alex's hand and they disappeared out of the park gates. Michael stood there for a long moment, the image of Alex's small wave etched in his mind. He felt a strange pang of something. Loss? Confusion? He wasn't sure. He looked at the empty space on the bench beside him, the spot where Alex had been sitting just moments before, and a deep sense of unease settled over him. He glanced at the setting sun, casting long shadows. He shivered and walked slowly toward home. An unlikely connection. The aroma of dark roast swirled around Michael as he slid into the booth across from Sarah. The cafe buzzed with the Friday morning crowd, a stark contrast to the unsettling quiet he'd felt since Alex's outburst. He stirred his coffee, the clinking a nervous rhythm against the background noise. Thank you for meeting me, Sarah said, her voice tight. I still don't understand what's going on, but Alex hasn't stopped talking about you. Michael sighed, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. I don't understand it either. It's like he knows me, but I've never seen him before in my life. He didn't mention the echoing voice that still haunted his sleep. Sarah's shoulders slumped slightly. He's different. Since his father left, he's been withdrawn, almost living in his head. He rarely connects with other kids. But with you, it's like a switch flipped. He's actually smiling. A wave of something akin to warmth washed over Michael, easing the knot in his chest. Lily's been struggling too since it's just been us. Maybe they just connect. They talked for another hour, not about Alex's strange pronouncements, but about the everyday struggles of single parenthood, the endless cycle of work and school, the guilt of not being enough, the constant worry etched into their faces. Michael confessed his fear of failing Lily, of not providing the life she deserved. Sarah spoke of the loneliness, the exhaustion of carrying everything on her own. It's like you're constantly treading water, she said, her voice cracking. And just when you think you can't breathe anymore, someone throws you a life raft. Michael met her gaze, a shared understanding passing between them. Sometimes, he admitted, all you need is someone to tread water alongside you. Meanwhile, in the park across the street, Lily and Alex were building a fort out of fallen branches and leaves. Lily, initially wary of the quiet boy, found herself drawn to his gentle nature. He didn't laugh at her elaborate stories about fairies living in the oak tree, but listened intently, his brown eyes wide with wonder. This is our castle, Lily declared, placing a crown of intertwined twigs on Alex's head. And we're the rulers. Alex smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his face. It's a good castle, he said, picking up a handful of colorful leaves and tossing them into the air like confetti. Lily giggled, grabbing her own handful. It needs more sparkle. She pulled a small pouch of glitter from her pocket, a staple in her artistic arsenal, and sprinkled it over the leaves, creating a shimmering cascade of color. Alex watched, mesmerized. For the first time in weeks, Lily felt a lightness in her heart, a sense of camaraderie she hadn't realized she'd been missing. Maybe, just maybe, this Alex wasn't so strange after all. Maybe he was just a friend. The locket secret. The park swam back into focus, the dizzy spell receding like the tide. Alex was still there, clutching Michael's hand with surprising strength. Sarah hovered nearby, her face a mixture of relief and lingering worry. Thank you, she said, her voice thick. I don't know what came over him. Michael managed a weak smile. He just needed a friend, I think. As Alex finally released his grip, Michael noticed something nestled against the boy's chest, hidden beneath the collar of his t-shirt. A glint of silver. He leaned closer, curiosity piqued. What's that you've got there, Alex? Alex looked down, his fingers instinctively going to the object. He pulled it out, revealing a tarnished silver locket shaped like a heart. It looked old, the silver worn smooth in places. It's Nana's, Alex mumbled, his gaze fixed on the locket as he gently rubbed its surface. Sarah sighed. He's been wearing it constantly since my mother passed away. He says it makes him feel closer to her. She gave Michael an apologetic look. Sentimental little thing, he is. Michael felt a strange pull, an inexplicable connection to the locket. Could I see it? he asked, the words almost a whisper. Alex hesitated, then after a searching look at Michael's face, carefully placed the locket in his outstretched hand. The metal felt cool and heavy against his palm. He ran his thumb over the delicate engravings that adorned its surface, tiny, intertwined roses. With trembling fingers, he unclasped it. Inside, nestled against faded velvet, were two miniature photographs. One was of an elderly woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. The other stole the air from Michael's lungs. It was Emily. The picture was old, the colors muted and sepia-toned, but there was no mistaking her. The same bright, mischievous eyes, the same cascade of auburn hair, the same playful curve of her lips. But younger. Much younger. Perhaps 16 or 17. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat echoing in his ears. He stared at the picture, his mind reeling, trying to reconcile the impossible. How could Emily, the vibrant woman he'd known, be connected to this old locket? And to Alex's grandmother? He looked up at Sarah, his voice a hoarse whisper. Who is this?" he asked, his gaze fixed on the younger Emily in the photograph. Sarah frowned, peering at the tiny image. "That's my mother," she said, her voice laced with confusion. "When she was a girl." She paused, her brow furrowing. "Why? Do you know her?" Whispers in the town. The whispers started subtly, like the rustle of dry leaves before a storm. At the bakery, Mrs. Henderson's smile seemed a little too wide, her eyes a little too scrutinizing as Sarah ordered Alex's favorite blueberry muffins. "And how's Mr. Harding settling in?" she chirped, the question laced with a saccharine curiosity that left a metallic taste in Sarah's mouth. By the time they reached the park, the rustling had grown to a chorus. Mothers huddled on benches, their voices dropping to conspiratorial murmurs as Sarah and Alex passed. Alex, usually oblivious, tugged at her hand. "Mommy, why are they looking at us?" Sarah forced a smile. "They're just being friendly, sweetie." But the knot in her stomach tightened. Michael felt it too. The butcher's jovial greeting felt strained. The librarian's helpfulness bordered on intrusive. He saw the glances, the barely concealed head shakes, the pursed lips that spoke volumes without uttering a single word. He understood. A strange man, suddenly living in their small town, attached to a single mother and her son, claiming, what exactly? It was the stuff of daytime dramas, not real life. He felt a blush creep up his neck. He missed the anonymity of the city, the freedom to simply be without explanation. That afternoon, the storm broke for Lily. She'd been sketching in the library, trying to lose herself in fantastical creatures and faraway lands when she heard it. A group of boys from Alex's class, their voices shrill with malice, were mimicking Alex's quiet demeanor. "He's got a new dad now," one snickered, "a weird one." "Yeah, my mom says he's probably got no real family. That's why the lady took him in." Lily's pencil snapped in her hand. A red haze descended. She strode over, her voice shaking with fury. "He's got a family. And they're kinder than any of you lot." The boys, startled by her outburst, mumbled apologies and scattered. Lily knelt beside Alex, who was staring at the floor, his face pale. "Are you okay, Alex?" Lily asked, her voice softening. Alex shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "It's okay. They don't understand." Lily wrapped her arms around him. "I understand," she whispered. "And Dad does too. Don't listen to them." Later that evening, Sarah found Michael staring out the window, his face etched with worry. "This isn't fair to you, Sarah," he said quietly. "Or to the kids. I'm bringing trouble." Sarah placed a hand on his arm. "Michael, you've brought us something I can't explain, but it's good. Don't let them take that away." She paused, then added, "We'll figure this out. Together." But even as she said the words, a tremor of doubt ran through her. The whispers were growing louder. Standing together. The town hall air thrummed with palpable unease, a stifling weight in the room. Michael addressed the assembled townsfolk from the temporary stage, the harsh glare of the overhead lights reflecting in his anxious eyes. This meeting, this impromptu tribunal, was his attempt to silence the swirling speculations concerning him and his unconventional family. His gaze drifted to Sarah, Alex, and Lily in the front row. Sarah offered a wan smile, her hand a comforting anchor on Alex's small knee. Lily, her constant companion, a threadbare rabbit, clutched tightly in her small hands, observed him with unnerving solemnity. He began, his voice a low rumble. "I'm aware of the rumors." The word felt flimsy, unable to capture the weeks of sideways glances and muttered conversations. "Concerning my presence here. Concerning Lily." A woman in the third row, Agnes, notorious for her meddling, cleared her throat with theatrical emphasis. Michael pressed on. I recognize that our arrival was unexpected, and I understand the impulse to question the unknown. He drew a steadying breath. This was it. Truth, or as much as he dared reveal, was about to spill. But the allegations I've heard, the implications, they're simply unfounded. My reason for coming here was a compelling sense of connection. To Lily, undoubtedly, but also to the spirit of this town. He met Agnes's gaze directly. I harbor no hidden agendas. I simply desire to build a life here. A fulfilling one. For Lily. For myself. And yes, if they'll accept me, for Sarah and Alex as well. A pregnant silence descended, thick and heavy. He felt the collective judgment, the unspoken accusations pressing against him. Then Sarah broke the spell. The screech of her chair against the polished floor echoed through the hall as she rose. Michael is a decent man, she stated, her voice ringing with unwavering conviction slicing through the suffocating atmosphere. He's compassionate, he's genuine, and he's been a gift to my son, to my whole family. He was led here by something he couldn't deny, an inexplicable pull. Is it truly that difficult to comprehend? Alex stood beside her, his small hand finding hers. He faced the crowd with surprising fortitude. He makes Lily smile. And we're happier too because of him. Lily, drawing strength from their unwavering support, pushed herself to her feet. Clutching her rabbit, she declared in a voice barely audible, "He's my dad." The simple declaration resonated through the room, carrying a weight far beyond its few syllables. Michael's heart swelled. He hadn't foreseen this outpouring. He hadn't requested it. His sole intention had been to safeguard Lily, to decipher the mysterious link that bound them. Yet here they stood, a makeshift family confronting a skeptical audience. He looked at Sarah, at Alex, at Lily. A surge of emotion coursed through him. Gratitude, affection, fierce protectiveness. He understood that whatever had drawn him here, whatever mysteries remained unsolved, he had stumbled upon something precious, something worth defending. My wife passed away some years ago, he admitted, his voice catching with emotion. And for a long time I felt adrift, lost myself in the process. But being here with Lily, with Sarah and Alex, it's as if I'm learning to breathe again. I don't possess all the answers, I know that. But I pledge this to you, I will always strive for honesty. I will dedicate myself to being a good neighbor, a dependable friend, a loving father. And I will forever cherish the love that I've discovered here. Because that's what this is, isn't it? Love? And isn't love all that truly matters? A new beginning. The park buzzed with the chaotic energy of a Sunday afternoon. Michael watched Alex trace patterns in the sandbox, a small, serious expression on his face. Lily, her cheeks flushed pink, chased pigeons, her laughter echoing across the green. He felt a pang, a ghost of a memory he couldn't quite grasp. He pushed it aside, focusing on the present, on the feeling of Sarah's hand brushing against his as she handed him a bottle of water. "Thanks," he said, his voice a little rough. He still felt like he was waking from a long dream, a dream where everything was slightly off. Sarah smiled, a genuine, relieved smile that reached her eyes. "He really likes you, you know," she said, nodding towards Alex. "He hasn't connected with anyone like this before." Michael's heart warmed. Alex did seem drawn to him in a way that felt both familiar and completely new. He knelt beside the boy. "What are you drawing, buddy?" Alex looked up, his eyes, so like Sarah's, filled with an unreadable emotion. "Just shapes," he mumbled, then, quieter still, "they feel right." Lily abandoned her pigeons and ran over, flinging herself against Michael's legs. "Daddy, push me on the swings." "Coming, Peanut," he said, ruffling her hair. The word daddy still felt foreign, but now less jarring. He looked at Sarah, a question in his eyes. She nodded, her smile widening. The afternoon unfolded in a blur of sunshine, laughter, and shared snacks. Michael pushed Lily on the swings, higher and higher, until she squealed with delight. He helped Alex build a magnificent sandcastle, complete with moats and turrets. He watched Sarah, her face relaxed and happy, and felt a warmth spread through him, chasing away the lingering chill of, what? He still couldn't name it. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, they packed up their things. Michael walked beside Sarah, their hands occasionally brushing. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice barely audible above the sounds of the park. "For everything." He stopped, turning to face her. "Thank you," he echoed, his gaze locking with hers. He saw a flicker of something in her eyes, a vulnerability, a hope. He reached out, gently touching her cheek. "For letting me be a part of this." The air crackled with unspoken words, with the promise of something more. He leaned in, drawn to her like a moth to a flame. Their lips met, A soft, hesitant kiss that blossomed into something deeper, something filled with tenderness and longing. Later, back at Sarah's apartment, the air was thick with the aroma of spaghetti and meatballs. Alex and Lily were sprawled on the floor, drawing pictures. Michael watched them, a sense of contentment washing over him. This felt right? Sarah caught his eye and smiled. She joined him on the small balcony overlooking the city. It's a little chaotic, she said, gesturing to the living room. But it's good. It's perfect, he said, reaching for her hand. He laced his fingers through hers, feeling a sense of completeness he hadn't known he was missing. The city lights twinkled below, mirroring the stars in the sky. He looked at Sarah, at the children inside, and knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within his soul, that this was a new beginning. A beginning built on love, on trust, and on the unexpected magic of a little boy's plea.